Okay, that projector is so much nicer than it used to be. You guys probably taken classes here in Fab 10, right? Just barely see it. It was like all falling down and everything like that. Okay. Well, good. Hey, your tuition money at work. So thanks, everybody. Hey, good evening. I'm David Whitlock. I'm the professor for this course. This is The Joy of Coding with Java and Android. In case anybody thinks this is like medieval French literature or something like that, it's not this course. I don't know any French, nor any medieval literature. Um, I was looking at the schedule. We're here. We're scheduled to go from 5:30 until 7:10, I believe. That's even shorter than I'm used to. So I usually talk pretty fast anyway. Tonight. I'm kind of feeling the time crunch. That being said, raise your hand. Get my attention if I'm talking too fast, or if there's something you'd like me to repeat or go over again. Um, We've got lots to cover tonight. This will be fundamentals. We're talking about the class, how it's going to work, lots of the mechanics, things that we're going to cover. Also, I want to sorry, I need my glasses on. I can't see anyone here in the room. Okay, there you are. And we're going to learn about get expectations for the course about what Java and Android is all. So I'm going to start off with a slide deck, but then we're going to go into details about the syllabus. We're also going to do a little group activity for folks because I'm really interested about your experience with hybrid learning. Lots of good stuff, and then we'll also get a preview of Wednesday night. Oops. So let's see here. Let's just see. The problem is I can see this, but I can't see you. Okay. So slideshow. Oops. Let's go back to the top. Okay. Well, hey. So again, we're going to do a couple of things. I'll introduce myself, and then Ju Young, who is our grader, is also here with us tonight. I'm super excited to have him here. We're going to talk about the course itself. We're going to look at the syllabus, and this gives you a good idea of what to expect over the next 10, 11 weeks. Again, I want to hear about your experiences with hybrid learning. And then we're going to do a little bit of a setup to get started with the course using Git and GitHub. Tonight, I hope, well, I'm going to demonstrate to you, and you all are free to play along. We'll be creating the Git repository that we'll be using for writing code in this class. And I want to make sure that everybody has access to do that. So that's sort of the first thing we're going to accomplish tonight. And like I said, we'll try to get you out of here on time at 7:10. Actually, I don't know if there's another class. Is there another class after this? They start classes after 7? Okay, good deal. Okay. So I'll try to get everybody out of here on time. I might need a couple extra minutes, though. Please bear with me. So again, I'm David Whitlock. I've been teaching at Portland State for a very long time now. I've had a lot of students come through. I really enjoy the experience. This is my primary job during the day. I'm a director of software engineering at a cybersecurity company called Fortra. But for me, this is something I've been doing for essentially my entire professional career. Being able to interact with people that, well, when I started, the students were much closer to my own experience, but now, this is a great opportunity for me to be able to share what I know with you, what I've learned, and I really enjoy hearing about your experiences too. Lots of things have changed during the time that I've been at Portland State, not only here at the university, but also the students have changed and also the outside world has changed, right? Technology is certainly very different than it was a number of years ago. So I'm looking forward to working with you this term to help you learn, to tell you about some things that I know about, to interact with you in dialogue about about the joy of coding and what we can do together in writing code. Like I said, I've been with Portland State for a long time. For many years, I served on the steering committee for PSEP, the internship program. Love that program. Was there since the beginning, and I'm really pleased and proud with what it's been able to do. Show of hands, anybody here a PSEP intern? Just one? Okay, well, I know it's kind of hard to fit in the schedule, but I highly encourage everybody to check it out. It's a great way to get some experience and learn about what it's like to be a professional software developer. So that's me. I also want to introduce Julian Park, who will be our grader. You might know some of him. Everybody knows James Young. Yeah, right on. Okay, good.
So hello, my name is Julian Park. That's a very old photo of me, but I'll do.
That's a good photo. Are you kidding me? Right on. Which way do you swipe here?
This is my last term here as a undergraduate. I'm finishing my capstone cycle this term, and I'm planning for the master's here in computer science as well. I'm also a CS major. I took this course over the summer when it was 8 weeks. So I went through everything you guys went through except for one thing, but
Databases.
Yeah.
It'll be new. You didn't see it. Brand new this
yeah.
term.
So I'll probably sit in for those lectures as well, so I can help. I'll be present on Slack as well.
Yes,
If
please,
you guys
yeah.
have questions during assignments, I'll be grading your quizzes and your projects or sorry, homework assignments.
Some projects.
Projects.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But yeah, something a little bit about myself outside of school is I teach Korean. I've had a teaching background for about 5-ish years now. So hopefully I can provide you guys with some detailed feedback for your quizzes and your assignments, and try to guide you guys. But yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm really glad you're doing this, Young. It's so great to have a grader who's been to the course. Yes. His hands all right. It provides a much better experience for the students, as he said. He was where you were, actually, literally where you were. We were in this classroom. Yeah, right, yeah, every week, yeah. It was a great experience, having him as a student. I'm glad he gets to be a grader too. Okay. This is an evolution of the course that I've always taught at Portland State. I feel very fortunate that I'm able to have essentially complete control over my curriculum. I get to I get to decide what is and isn't offered, and so it's really easy for me to do things like, I want to learn about databases this term, and poof, we're learning about databases. I don't need to clear any committee or anything like that. But you may see in some of the materials, especially some of the lectures on YouTube, that still refers to older names or older incarnations of the course. So some things are labeled as contemporary software development. I call it that for a hot minute, and that's a mouthful. I didn't like it very much. And then for many years, this was advanced programming with Java, and there are still some remnants of that. So if you see it, no, it's not a mistake. Or if you have any questions, just reach out to me. Let me know. Something else that is relatively new for this course is teaching 2 nights a week. For a long time, it was like a 4-hour lecture on Wednesdays, and I'm too old for that now. And so I found that it's really nice to have 2 class meetings a week. It gives, I think, us more time to interact with each other, plus helps pace the material out a bit more. That being said, I know there are some weeks that might seem really heavy and some weeks might seem kind of light. Apologize if that's awkward. We'll figure it out and adjust as need be. And as I was saying, it seems like the course is a little short. At least the lecture time is a little short this term. We'll figure it out. So again, we're in this together. I'm here for you, and please let me know how I'm doing, what you're observing, and if there's anything I can do to help improve your learning experience. So this course is all about 21st century software development. Now, granted, we're already 25 years into the 21st century, but boy, things keep changing, don't they? And I think where my head is really at right now with this course is that, wait a second, we're software developers. The world runs on software, and software is written by people. Yep, we can talk a lot about AI and sort of what that means. We're still really figuring it out. It's still very early days, but there are still people like us who are developing software. And the reason that we've been able to do what we do with software is because we learn all the time. We discover new and better ways of doing things. And I realized for me that what I want to provide you all in this class is insight into what those better things are. Sort of where we are, what to me seems like state of the art, and enough history of where we got there to give you an appreciation of why it makes sense to be doing things the way that we do, not just this is because it hasn't always been this way. We got here for a reason. So just some things I found to be true about contemporary software development is that we want to provide a great experience for our users, the people whom we serve. And we do this with high quality software, software that meets expectations. And so you got to understand what those expectations are. And you have to demonstrate that your software meets those expectations. And you can do that very well with testing. And we'll talk a little bit about test-driven development here. But in order to get that high quality software, you need lots of brains on the problem, different points of view, and you need people with different experiences all coming together to write software. And that's something that we'll explore in this course. One of the things I hope to offer you is an environment where you can work with other people to write software. Not all of your software that you write in this course, but there will be lots of opportunities. We'll talk about that later. The other thing I found to be true is that the code that you work with, only a small subset of it is the code that you wrote. Very often you're working with someone else's code. And I know for me, like early on in my career when I sort of, started my first job and saw like, here's this huge software base that dozens of people have contributed to over many years. That's very daunting. I didn't even know where to start. So one of the things that I hope you get an experience with this course is taking someone else's code and using it. Sometimes making it your own, but leveraging code that other people have written. So you have to understand what they did and how to use it, and then applying that in your own work. And then the other thing I found to be true about software development is that software must evolve. Software that is successful, sort of by definition, people want more out of it. Oh, I like what you're doing for me now. Can you also do this? And this is a good thing to have to change your software, but it's also a challenge because you learn more and your mindset changes. So we'll talk about some techniques for evolving software to meet what people want out of it for the future. So I talked about quality. I found the best way to ensure that quality is in your software is high quality is to write tests that demonstrate it, right? You want your software to do something, and so prove it to yourself, demonstrate to the world that that does what you expect by writing tests. So we'll be talking about test-driven development a lot in this course. This is a programming technique where you write your tests first, and you write the code that makes that test pass. The feedback that I've gotten is kind of a mind-blowing concept. For some people, it's kind of natural. For a lot of people, it's very awkward. I want to hear about your experiences as you experience. But basically, what you do is you write a test that says, "Oh yeah, this is what I expect the software to do," and then you validate, and then that you write more code to make that test pass. And what I found through my own experience and that of my students is that this helps you go faster ultimately. You want to write your tests anyway, but by doing it first, you know when you're done. And I don't know about you, but like I'm never sure when I'm done. And I think if I look back on my career, I've done a lot more than I've had to. So it helps you, do the right stuff instead of just like doing stuff until you think you're done. And it helps you go fast confidently. Now, software is a team sport. And so in this course, we're going to experience pair programming, we're going to experience ensemble programming or mob programming, where people get together, where the great minds come together and say, aha, let's figure out how to solve this problem. And I really like teaming when it comes to software because it lowers the cognitive load. You get stuck a lot less often. When you are stuck, things get resolved quickly because there are lots of people to, again, look at the problem from different points of view and leverage their own experiences for when it comes to solving the problems that are in front of you. So you find your bugs sooner, and you end up with a more resilient team, a more resilient code base, because there are lots of people that know about it. I think one of the biggest problems, a big problem that I've seen is that you approach a piece of code and you have no context for it. And even if it was a code that was written a couple of days ago by your coworker, how do you know when it works? Well, when you pair up, when you have a bunch of people, when you're working in a mob, just naturally, more people know about it, and so more people can fix, more people can work on it. And of course, leveraging code from others is a key part of what we do today. Open source software has, put billions of lines of code out there for us to reuse. And it's really helped us solve so many problems faster. Time was you had to write everything from scratch. That predates me. That was 50, 60 years ago. But even in my career, I've gone from okay, yeah, there's Linux, and that was like sort of like the only open source tool, to having this whole community where, gosh, the vast majority of software, it seems, is open source. But it means you need to learn about it. It means you need to have the skills to know where to start, how to approach working with other people's code. And this is something that I hope we get to experience here. So you'll be leveraging standard APIs from the Java development kit to when we're working with Android, when we're working with web applications. Those all come, that's all code that someone else wrote that you'll be able to work with and therefore understand and apply for your assignments. And it's also really a good way to learn. I think I'm glad that when I was in your desk many years ago, it was at a time when APIs and publicly shared code were just sort of coming into existence, starting to get well known, and so then I got to pick up on good patterns because I saw frameworks from other people. And then that helped me with my own code that I wrote because I wasn't making everything up from scratch. I got to follow patterns from others. And something else that we'll be doing in this course a lot is sharing code with each other. Certainly when we pair, we'll be using Git and GitHub a lot. And I'd also, well, you also use Git and GitHub even for your own projects. So I hope that you walk away with a much better understanding of how to use distributed version control. And finally, the fourth component of this course is evolving code for the future. What we do here is, what we do in software is never really done. Software is only done when people stop using it. It's kind of bleak, but I guess sort of like that's how software dies. No one uses it anymore. Right? Windows 95, it's gone. Well, no, I'm sure there's probably a missile silo and, anyway. Oh gosh, I hope it's not running Windows 95 and a missile silo when I said that. But so what we're going to learn here is to how to sustain your code base over time. We have a unit in what's called code refactoring, where you take code and you make changes to it, not to add new features, not to improve performance, but to make the code easier to work with in the future. And this can mean, removing duplicate code. It can be improving names of things. It can be just organizing your code in a way that that it's more accessible and easier to use. You'll have an opportunity to apply this in your own assignments as you get further into the course. So those are the concepts we'll be covering in this course. It's all very high level stuff. Don't worry, it'll get more interesting here shortly. And in terms of how we're going to apply those concepts, we'll be using Java and Android. Now, I'll be the first to admit that this is not technology, right? Java is like over 30 years old now, just about 30 years old. And even Android, very solid platform, still very relevant. It's been around for a long time. Yeah, I chose these tools. These are the tools I'm most familiar with, but I've also found that they're very effective at teaching those concepts that we just talked about. So I actually, show of hands, who here has used Java before? Okay, good. Everybody's at least, most people have seen it a little bit. I don't, do they still cover it for like 2 weeks in like one of the junior level courses or something? Barely? Okay. Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah. Actually, I've heard that before too. I'd say probably a while ago, yep, there was more Java in the curriculum. Here, the first assignment that you're going to do is something called the Java koans. And what it is this little series of teaching exercises that my students have said, oh, good, that helped me like either remember or really understand what the Java programming language is all about. So the first code, and we'll talk about that on Wednesday, the first the first project that you see is meant to refamiliarize yourself or just familiarize yourself with Java. And so then, even if you haven't done Java before, the feedback that I've gotten over the years is that, yep, the koans sort of get you off to a good start. And then by the end of the course, you'll be very comfortable using the language and the APIs, all that good stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about the mechanics of the course. We'll get more into this in the syllabus, but one thing I want to call out here at the beginning is the nature of us meeting together. Of course, during the pandemic, we're all remote. When we came back, I decided to keep this course hybrid. So here's how it works. We meet on Mondays and Wednesdays at 5:30. I'm on campus. What we'll have is in-class discussions. Well, I'll be demonstrating a lot of stuff to you. This isn't really a lecture course. Actually, this is probably one of the few times I'll lecture at you with slides and stuff like that. Instead, what I do is I'll talk to documents sometimes, but mainly I won't be coding up here in front of you. I want to show you how to develop code and how to work with a lot of the tools that you'll see for this course. And also, the other thing we do in class is activities as a group. We've got one here tonight where we're collaborating on a document, but we'll also be doing mobbing and pairing. I stream all the classes live on Zoom. The Zoom information is in Canvas on the homepage. Clearly, there were a number of people that found it. And I post the recordings of classes on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And I try to do that before noon the following day. Hey, we all got lives. You all got lives. I understand that not everybody either can be on campus here on a working class, and there might be some times where, hey, you've got other stuff going on in your lives. That being said, there are if you look sort of, I don't know, on Canvas or on when you sign up for the course, you probably saw that Monday is the remote or the web-based night, and Wednesday is in person, which means that I guess the final exam is on Monday, but there are a couple of Wednesdays where I do request, and there will not really be a remote option. I'd like you to be here in class. And this is for the two pair programming activities, and so that'll be on January 21st and the 28th, both Wednesdays, and the mobbing activity on February 18th and the 25th. And I'd also like you here for the final exam on March 16th. I want the final exam to be in person. It's also, a chance for us to all see each other and say goodbye, saying it's so hard to say goodbye yesterday or something. Yeah. Otherwise, you don't need to be here. Now, that being said, one thing, and my students told me this, one thing I've observed, and I wasn't wrong apparently, the students who are here in class are better engaged. And it does make a difference. That being said, you're adults, right? You've got to decide how to prioritize your time. I understand that you've got other draws on it. And hey, coming, into downtown, especially in the winter where maybe the roads are a little dicey, or especially in winter when it's dark out, understand might not be your thing. So you're required to be here five times during the term. Otherwise, listen, it's your call in terms of whether you're here in person or whether you attend remotely. But again, you will have a better experience if you are here and engaged. Okay. I want to do an activity now where we work together to share our experiences with hybrid learning. But anything I can tell you, I've covered a lot so far, a lot of things about the course. Anything like me to expand on? Any questions that I can answer? I will also check people who are remote. Nothing came in on chat, luckily. Good. Well, excellent. Okay. Yeah. Let's see here. If you go to Canvas, I put out an announcement about like an hour and a half ago, maybe closer to 2 hours now on Canvas with a link off to this Google Doc. Oops, come on. Okay. Oh, I don't have the Google Doc. Why don't I have a Google Doc? It is over here in the tab. There we go. Awesome. Cool. Okay. Looks like some people have already started. This is a group activity, though. Yes, I appreciate people getting a head start. But what I'd really like to do is I want to hear about your experiences with hybrid learning. I think this cohort in particular, I mean, you all started, well, probably a number of you probably started college after the pandemic, right? So, I mean, right, while of course you had earlier education, beforehand, and your Portland State experience has been one where we've had these tools, this ability to work remotely. And, I know that different professors, different instructors have, approached things differently. So I'd like to hear from you what you found to be effective, what things have been tried and didn't work well for you, and then any specific ideas you have for this course. Requests that you can make of me, of the of your fellow students, to provide a hybrid environment that's effective for you and what you've found to be true. So what I'd like to do now is break up into groups of 3 or 4 people here in the classroom, and I'll open up a couple of breakout rooms in the Zoom, and we'll spend, let's say, 15 minutes brainstorming. I encourage you all to talk with each other and collaborate on this Google Doc. Is there anybody who hasn't been able to find the Google Doc? Yeah. Okay. Are you on Canvas? Is under announcements? Oh. Yep, great. And also, I'll also post it here in the Zoom if there's anyone in nice. Okay, so I am going to pause the recording and we will. Awesome. Okay, cool. Hey, a good discussion, everybody. As I heard what was happening here in the classroom. Good stuff. I was reading over the document as you were writing it. Some good observations, and I think some hard-won lessons here. what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask each group to just briefly speak to a couple of the points that resonated with them. Maybe something that came up in the conversation. Um, I'll start with folks who are remote. So people are on Zoom. So I want room one. And so that was Abdullah Alex Gamalier. Sorry, I butchered your name. Um, Jeremy, Molly, and Tuan. What did you all talk about? What were some of the key takeaways that you had about what works and what doesn't work with hybrid learning?
Yeah, if no one wants to start, I'll start. Essentially, I feel like the main thing a lot of us kind of agreed on was when you're online staring at a screen, especially if it's just like we've had classes where the whole lecture was just like back to back slides, kind of just narrating. And I feel like interaction wise and just staying focused is a lot harder just because like at some point it's easier to nod off rather than other classes we've had where it's hybrid, but we're kind of like either kind of coding along just to learn the topics or like for example when we did data structure something like that, just learning how it all works and doing it actively with the professor definitely helped like keep it ingrained and also just kept it engaging. And I feel like when you're engaged it's a lot easier to kind of keep everything in memory.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. I say on that. So, I hope that like what we do in class on Mondays and Wednesdays doesn't feel like that again. I don't present slides. That's all up on YouTube. So that's pre-recorded. And so if you want to, watch it at more greater than one time speed or slow it down, you can do all that. You can also pause and come back if you find yourself nodding off. I hope what we do in class is a little bit more compelling, a little bit more interactive. But let me know. And actually, if you're here in the room, I can hear you snoring, and so then that's certainly feedback on on the quality of my presentation. Cool. Anybody else from room one have something they'd like to chime in with?
Oh, we also discussed it's pretty related, but we also discussed how like having like shorter assignments or like works a little bit better since you're able to really focus it on and not having an assignment that goes on for like a couple of weeks
Yeah.
prevents you from getting like distracted or putting it off for too long.
Okay, good. We'll talk briefly about the projects and how things are structured in this course when we look at the syllabus in a couple of minutes. But yeah, let's see here. How do I say this? You don't need to worry about projects taking more than a couple of weeks because you only have a couple of weeks to do them. So it's there's a nice constraint that way. Again, let me know how it goes. Thanks. Let's see here. Okay, we'll do one of the groups here in the room, then we'll go remote, then we'll come back. And so, how about the group here in the front? You go first. So, here's some good conversations. What are some of your key takeaways from your conversation about hybrid learning?
All right. One of the key takeaways we had was what worked well was that flexibility with a really good option. Like just having the option to be able to like, hey, if I can't get to this class, depend on what I do to get to work with them that way. Things that didn't work well, we talked about centralization. So if all the resources are in different spots, they're hard to reach, then that's difficult to organize.
Well, and we'll talk how I do that. I got to admit, I'm not a huge fan of this as a course deliverer. There's just things about it that I find cumbersome and slow. I want to focus on doing things that I think add more value, like providing feedback to students and like preparing new material, as opposed to like trying to figure out the slow cookie UI. That being said, what we'll see in a moment is that everything is here on the course homepage. That's the one place, but that one place is not Canvas. But thank you for raising that up. Other folks from here in the front. Okay. Encapsulate. Yes. Open for extension. Nice. Okay. Room three. I guess there is no room two. Room three with Adon, Dylan, Ed, and Caitlin. What were some of your takeaways from your conversation that you had about hybrid learning and its effectiveness?
Well, I could talk for myself, and I've found, I mean, like I deliberately chose PSU because it wasn't remote, I find that I just can't pay attention. It's easy to disregard what I'm seeing because it's just on my computer, and then I need to have some skin in the game to show up. And so I'm glad to hear that like there are people in the room on campus, and I'm gonna be there next week.
Awesome. Look forward to seeing you, Ed. Thanks. Other folks from room 3, your experience with hybrid learning.
I think sometimes it can be overwhelming when there's just a ton of things on the screen for each week. I know I've had teachers like, watch this link, then this link, then this link, then this link, and then do this. And I like having access to multiple weeks, which is wonderful. It's like I'm caught up. I want to stay caught up. But that's one thing. It's usually just being overwhelmed by the amount of things, which, yeah, can be easy to do.
No, I appreciate that. And let me know how it goes. Each week there's some stuff to prepare. We'll talk about several things during class, and then, of course, there's the quizzes and stuff to take outside of class. Thanks. Anybody else from room 3?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, like lecture online isn't too bad. I can pay attention pretty well. The only thing is the lack of like making connections, because I think that's a big part of being in person is being able to meet new people and, like you said, share those new ideas and whatnot. That's what might be hard online, but yeah, that's just my point of view.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, Adon. And sorry, could you say your name? I want to make sure I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah, you're saying it correctly. Thank you.
Adon, okay, great. Um, so well, that's there's a reason I get everybody in person to do mobbing with parent. Actually, in let's see here, I think in the 11th version of the course, we have 3 pairing and 3 mobbing. Let's see, first, second, yeah, third. You have 3 pairing and 3 mobbing activities, and the third one of each of those you can be in person or remote. But it's really important to me that you all be here in person, so that you can experience the very tactile nature of working with someone on solving a code problem. And so, you just have to develop rapport with someone else. And these are important skills to learn. But it's also, I'm also glad that in the winter, I can offer the remote pairing and the remote mobbing experience too, because there's something to be said for that. And it's something that people certainly do. Awesome. Thanks. Okay. And then group towards the back of the room. What was your experiences like with hybrid? What are some of your key takeaways? And what are some of the things you'd like me to know? Mm. Yeah, right. No, I think it's understandable, and it's for me that's kind of the dark side of being remote, where you get to go at your own pace in a lot of cases, and certainly at your own time. But yeah, the nature of the feedback isn't the same as, again, being able to see someone nodding off in your class as opposed to there. That's other thoughts from the team. Cool. Yep. Yep. Excellent. Well, and we'll walk through this, but if you haven't checked out the course homepage here, here's all of the links. There's slides here, and then also we'll be seeing this later, but there's also the tons of example code that I have out here. That's what's referenced in the slides. It's all there in GitHub, and so then if you want to actually use it yourself in IntelliJ, it's available to you. Great. Awesome. Any final thoughts before we move on? Well, great. Thanks. I appreciate you engaging in that activity. It's always insightful to me. And the answers change from year to year. It's funny. I'm kind of curious to go back and look at how this, how what you're saying compares and contrasts with what other people are saying. It's clear that we're feeling much more comfortable doing this than we were, say, in 2023. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Now, let's see here. Let's talk about the syllabus, and then I want to get started with setting up Git and GitHub. So the syllabus, I believe I included a link to it in that announcement. It can also be found here on the course's homepage. So as I was saying, this is home base for me, and not only do I know that what Canvas provides is consistency for everybody, and technically I do use Canvas. The quizzes are on Canvas, and I have put all of the assignments and the corresponding calendar events on. So if you're used to managing your assignments, your due dates on Canvas, that's all there. But in terms of like the lecture notes themselves and the recordings of the videos, sorry, posting the PDF myself and using YouTube is, I think far superior in a number of ways. So that's the way I've structured things. And so the intent here is that for every week, there is a bulleted list of the things that I want you to know about that week. And so then for each session, there is some material to review. And so then I ask that you do that before class. And it consists of, this is the lecture. And so the first one, obviously, I didn't expect you to do this for tonight, but if you'd like a review or a deeper introduction into Git and using Git for source code management, I have a lecture on that. And what's linked here are the slides here that I present. And then there's also a link to the lecture and me speaking to the slides on my YouTube channel. Hi. Cover the frog. Yep. And I try to make each one about 20 minutes, and sometimes they go as much as 45. But the idea here is that I think with that platform, with using YouTube, you have a lot more flexibility in terms of when and how you view it and your ability to fast forward and pause and have to remember things like that. And just to be clear, I don't monetize any of it. I'm not making money there, PSU. I was going to say pays me well, and I don't care. I'm not here for them. And then also, if there's things that we'll be talking about in class, like when we assign a project or we have a handout or topic to cover. And then there's a list of references that I encourage you to review after class to reinforce what it is that we learn. So that's how this information is structured. I encourage you to bookmark or otherwise study this page. There's a little bit of JavaScript magic so that hey, when we get further into the course, the earlier sessions will be collapsed, right? These little triangles collapse. I'm so proud of myself. And so then it'll hopefully focus on the things that are most interesting to you. So let's talk briefly about the syllabus. Let's see here. So what we're here to do is to explore contemporary software development. And we'll be doing that with Java and Android and really the software ecosystems that they provide. So there are the asynchronously delivered lectures on YouTube, but what we'll be doing here in class are discussions, and I'll be demonstrating a lot of stuff. And of course, we're doing pair and mod programming. You also have a multi-phase project where over, let's see here, 6. Is that right? Yeah, 6 parts because it's 11-week course. You'll be going from some very simple Java objects all the way to an Android application. And we'll introduce that next week. Also, there are quizzes and exams. There's about 1 quiz every week, and then there's a final exam. And I'll be talking more about like how to grades computed and stuff like that. But that's kind of the things that we do. Just to be clear, there's no lab section to this course, no recitation section, anything like that. We meet here and we talk and we learn things, and then you'll all off on your own go demonstrate that learning in your projects and quizzes. We'll be covering a lot of interesting things. There's some stuff related to Java. It's the language that we all use, and so we'll be learning about that. So you'll be learning about the language, but more importantly, the standard class libraries, so utility classes for grouping objects together, facilities for doing I/O, those kind of fundamental things, and they'll be using those in your projects. But we'll also be learning a lot of conceptual things that go far beyond Java. So we'll be talking about unit testing. We'll be talking about test room development. We'll be talking about Maven and building Java projects. Also get a lot of experience. First, learning about the concepts and some of the practices for pair and ensemble programming, but then you'll be doing it. As I said, there are 3 opportunities to pair, 3 activities for pair programming in this course. There are 3 activities for mob programming in this course. I think that'll give you a really good experience and good understanding of how to work in that mode. We'll also see a lot of object-oriented programming with Java objects. We'll be looking at code refactorings. We've got an interesting exercise. I think we can split over 2 lectures in the winter, all about code refactoring, which is good. Then we'll also be talking about web development. We'll be developing a REST API and using some of the fundamental tools that Java has for developing web applications. We'll be looking a little bit at the dependency injection design pattern and testing with mock objects. And then everything culminates in the final project, which is an Android application that you'll be building based on from all of the other pieces parts that you've developed over the rest of the course. So my goal in this course, I don't know, I don't think it's exactly a survey course per se, but what I hope to provide you is a lot of breadth. Trust me, there'll be some depth also, but I hope that you get to see a lot of different facets of contemporary software development to then just give you an idea of what's out there and make you feel comfortable enough and give you enough of a foundation that you can take bigger steps. Okay, grading policies. Important stuff, I understand. So 60% of your grade is determined by the multi-phase project. We have 6 phases of it, and so all that adds up to 60% of the grade. The quizzes, and there are 8 of them, are each worth 3%, and I dropped the lowest grade. And that's all administered on campus. It makes it easier to grade it. Does anybody still, professors give you quizzes on paper? Does anybody still do that? I'm just curious. No? So that's 21% of your grade are your quizzes, and with 8 quizzes, there's about 1 every week. It's spread out a little bit more. We'll talk more about this in a couple of weeks, but the pair programming and the mob programming sessions are evaluated not on your code that you write. I don't really care about the code that you write. It's more about your experience. And to capture that experience and reflect on that experience, there's essentially a quiz. That's not a quiz. It's a reflection. So you'll answer a couple of questions about your experiences with pairing and mobbing. Each of those is worth 3.5%. So that's 7%. Yeah, 7% of your grade is right there. And then so 3 opportunities for pairing and mobbing. And then the final exam is worth 12%. So just to be clear, the final exam is only worth 12%. This is not one of those courses where you can just sort of have your entire grade determined by the final exam. I always thought that was stupid. So I decided, I'm not a teacher. I'm not going to do that. No. And so you have lots of opportunities for the entire course to screw up your grade. To contribute to your grade. Then the final exam really is, it's important, 12%. Okay, that's probably a couple letter grades right there. It's not the only thing to determine your grade. So that's percentage-wise about your grade. Before I go into some more of the details, though, any observations, feedback, questions that you want to ask about sort of how grades calculated? So please pay attention to the due dates for things. So everything is always due before class. Usually that says that's right. Yeah. Is due before class because I want you to be in class. I don't want you to be doing your homework when you should be in class. Sorry, if it did get done, we'll talk about what happens, with late stuff and everything. But I do it that way. Things are not due at midnight. I know that the default due date for Canvas things is midnight, so probably a lot of your other classes have things due at midnight. Sorry, I want you in class, and so stuff is due right before class. So 5:30 on Mondays or Wednesdays, usually Wednesdays. Now. The late days. Hey, we all have them, right? Something comes up at the last minute, or we realize things are more difficult. We had a bug we couldn't fix. So here's my policy on late days. With project submission, so quizzes, I don't accept late work. But project submissions, yeah, I understand. There's a last minute bug, you couldn't get it fixed. You need a couple more hours. Go to class, get a good night's sleep, fix the next day. So you have 2 late days to use during the term. You can use them on any project. I urge you to save them for the later projects. And we'll talk about how projects are submitted, but like it's on me to record when the project was submitted and whether or not it was late. So you just follow the same thing that you always do, and I'll figure out whether or not it's late. Although will keep track of which two if your 2 late days are used. You may also resubmit one project for regrading. So basically, like no questions asked. Oh yeah, within 1 week of getting the original grade. So this is like, hey, and we've all been there. You misunderstood something about the assignment, or hey, you had a bug in your program that worked fine all your test cases, but then when I run through my grading script, everything fails because there was a misunderstanding. I don't want you to get a 0 on things. Instead, I want you to fix it and resubmit it back. So that's my policy there. Otherwise, on paper, my policy is that no other late work will be accepted. In reality, talk with me about it. Hey, listen, we all have stuff come up. The most important thing for me is that you are able to learn. A great way to learn, how I've learned most of my things, is that, oh, I had a misunderstanding. I did something that was wrong. It didn't meet the expectation, and I figured out how to understand what the expectation was and then meet it. That's what I'd ultimately like to see from my students. And so then, hey, listen, you get your grade back and you're like, oh, oops, clearly I did something wrong. I'd much rather have you reach out to me and say, hey, can I resubmit it even though I've already used my 2 late days? Or, hey, I know it's been like a week and a half and I finally figured out the bug. Let's work together on that. I found that the students that got the least out of the course were the students who, from my point of view, gave up. Who like didn't either weren't willing to admit that, yeah, they made a mistake. We all make mistakes. Or that were somehow like too intimidated by me, to come and ask. And I could go on, but let me tell you, out there in the real world, when like your livelihood depends on these things, you gotta get over those fears. And yes, while there is a point over which it's like someone asks too many questions or someone clearly doesn't know what they're doing, most people know how to figure it out. You've gotten this far at in your academic careers, in your lives. Please don't feel that you either aren't capable or aren't deserving of a second chance, because I'm willing to give it. The 27th chance, whenever we're talking. But like, listen, I want people to do well, and one of the best ways to learn is to respond to feedback. I guess I did go on. Anyway, on paper, there is a curve. I want to reserve the option to have a curve in the class. The graduates and the undergraduates have separate curves. I haven't curved in years. I don't know what it is, but most of my students do fine. And so then there's the regular grade. So if you're following along your grade and you're like, oh, okay, I've got a 72. And so that's going to be like a B, right? Oh, well, that'll be whatever a 72 is. Yeah. So keep an eye on things. And again, reach out. I'm much more likely to give, to work with you to make sure that we've got a plan to make people successful. So that's some more on grading. Anything else I can tell you about that before we move on? It's pretty standard and familiar. Okay. Don't cheat. I don't want to go into this too much because it's like super obnoxious. I use a tool called Moss that looks for software plagiarism. It's very good. I will find you. So please don't do it. And listen, for me, cheating is like copying someone else's code. And like in the rare occasion that it has, that someone has, that I caught someone cheating, it has been that. So it's not like, gosh, I had a conversation with someone and I sort of saw their code, or like I saw something on the whiteboard. Don't worry, that's not going to be that's not going to be a problem. But listen, if you just like take someone else's code or find someone else's code that's not in this class and maybe did it before, that also gotcha. Will be kind of used to it. I refer you back to the academic misconduct page here for the university. And I do want to call out that when it comes to collaborating with other people, yes, there's some work in this class. When we do pair and mobbing activities, where you're supposed to work with other people, this is your opportunity to learn how to work with other people. That's exactly what I want you to do. I had some students one time say, "Oh, I thought we could like work together on our projects. We do pair programming this course." I'm like, was I not clear? So I changed the syllabus to be super clear that, hey, when it comes to the projects that you do outside of class, that's meant to be individual work because it's assessed individually. The work that you do together in class, in the pairing and the mobbing, is purposely done together. It's assessed together. That's how that works. One last thing before I pause. If you want to do AI assisted coding for this course, and maybe not tonight, but I'd love to hear about your experiences so far. Let me know. I use AI coding. It's a valid way to code. I'm really curious to see what students' experiences are using AI tools in the course. So if it's something that you're thinking about, let's talk. Otherwise, I assume that you're not doing it, and that the vast majority of work is on your own. And of course, AI tools are so well integrated these days. And so anyway, but I do want to know if you are using AI assistant, because I want to know what your experience is like. Quite frankly, I've been thinking a lot about AI as a teaching tool and a learning tool. But I don't know what someone's experience is like. I mean, I've been doing this for so long where it's like, well, I sort of know what the answer should be, and so I can tell whether it's right or wrong. If much earlier in my career where I wasn't experienced, I don't know if AI would help or harm. Where it's just like, oh, great, it wrote something. It's not working. I have no idea why. So I'm just curious. So let me know if you want to use AI to do your projects in this course. Other topics you like to explore when it comes to not cheating. Good. I hit that part of the syllabus. Okay, good. Lots of miscellany. So, like I said, the lecture notes and the screencasts are on the website. Please review them before class. Advice from other students: don't wait until the last minute to start the projects. Some of it might seem very simple on paper. My students have said, "Oh yeah, I thought it was simple. It took me longer than I thought." Okay. Actually, I've got some data on how long it's taken people, which we'll review at some point. We'll be talking later about my expectations for documenting your code, but I encourage you to write the documentation as you write the code, and practice expressing your ideas and your thoughts in English in addition to Java. Please ask questions. As much as I love to hear the sound of my own voice, I want to hear your voices too. It's cliche, but I found it to be true. If you have a question, it's probably because I wasn't clear about something. It means there are other people that also have the same question. No one will tell you, probably no one will tell you this, but it's like, you'll be the hero if you raise your hand and say, okay, wait a second. Please stop, slow down, explain to me that again. Because I wasn't clear. But I can't see inside your head, so I don't know when I'm clear or when I'm not clear. Lots of example code and information in the slides, so please go play with them. Office hours. So I try to be available, I try to respond asynchronously to things like emails and Slacks at the beginning and end of the day. I work during the day, and so I really shouldn't be responding to stuff. Maybe I'll catch me at lunch or something. But I do have formal office hours, and it's basically the hour before class on Zoom. So I'll get to the classroom. Actually, I won't be in the classroom because there's someone teaching before me. So then I'll probably be out in the lounge or something like that. The common area, whatever they call that, down the hall by the stairway. The open stairway, not the one with the door. Anyway, I'll be there hanging out. Please feel free to stop by, or also be on Zoom for office hours. I'm also available by appointment, and so if the one time we can make it work is on like a Sunday afternoon or something, we can do that too. I prefer to do the majority of asynchronous communication with the class on Slack. I found that this is best because we can have a real-time communication if we want to, if we're both online and engaging. It's also very visible to people, and works better than email or whatever is there in Canvas. So there is an invitation link to the Slack group, and it's in that semi-official PSU Slack, which I hope you guys are on. And I apologize if Slack seems like old or not cool. There's actually quite a lot of discussion on there, so I hope people have gotten used to it. Anyway, and I encourage you. And so, sorry, we have a hashtag the Joy of Coding channel in that Slack. That's where I'll post information about like, oh yeah, here's what's happening. There's especially this time of year where it's like, oh look, it's snowing cold today. I'm not like coming out. We'll do everything remotely. I'll post stuff there. I do encourage you to post questions that really are specific to you. Clearly, anything related to like your grades or like, oh hey, I've got the flu and I'm gonna be home. Great, just send that to me as a DM. No problem there. But more general questions about the requirements for the projects, or hey, I noticed something I was wrong on the website. Yeah, please put that in the public channel. Again, if you're having that question, I'm sure someone else is also. And this way, everybody benefits from the answer. That really helps me. As a matter of fact, oftentimes what I do is like if someone DMs me well, first of all, I look at the DMs last. And if someone DMs me with a question, which is like really should have gone to the whole group, I'll copy and paste anonymously the question. I'll say, yeah, student had a really good question. So you don't get credit for a good question, but it's like, hey, here's a good question, and I post my answer there, and then the DM like go look at the public chat. So use that there. My email, which I also read, but I read it second after Slack. You can either use whitlock at cs.pdx.edu or whitlowcd@pdx.edu. At least at one point there was a whitlock at pdx.edu who wasn't me. We don't talk about him anymore. And that doesn't get to me though if you do that. Also, on the topic of emails, sometimes we'll talk about this when we talk about submitting your projects. Some of the emails from the grader sometimes get marked as spam. So then like I'll email you your grade and it's like, I didn't see the grade. And like, well, you check your junk folder? Oh, there it is. So check your junk folder, your spam folder or whatever for that too. That's the web page. Just a quick note here. We'll be going into much more detail that has to submit your projects in a couple of weeks, or maybe next week. But it's not sufficient just to like push your changes to GitHub. It's like, no, you got to run the submit script. And so please be sure to do that. And another thing which we will see tonight, yep, we got time. Oh, well, we got a little bit of time. We'll be running the survey script. And running the survey script is extra important because this is what I use as proof of your attendance, your initiation of attendance in class. Notice I didn't take attendance tonight. I don't take attendance. You don't got time for that. And like I said, I don't, ultimately it's up to you to determine whether or not you're here or not. So I need some other proof that you have engaged in the course, and running the survey.sh script will be that proof. Whew, that was a lot. Anything else I can tell you about sort of this miscellaneous other things about the course? What did I miss anything? Anything else that you'd like to know? Yeah.
On dates when
if the university is open, I will make every attempt. I mean, unless like I'm stuck, some ways, don't have access to the course. So yes, if the university is open, I intend to have class. If the university is open, and let's say, so I live on the west side, so like if there's some freak snowstorm and I can't get into campus, then we'll have class remote. I'll deliver class remotely assuming I have internet. If it's like a couple of years ago, over like Martin Luther King Jr. week, I didn't have electricity for 6 days, and I live in it's like civilization, right? Yeah, there might be extenuating circumstances, but yeah, I plan to have a little bit of cold doesn't scare me. But also, if anybody like isn't a part of the world where like it's not safe for you to drive, don't risk your life or risk being late even if it's not safe. This is why we're hybrid. And if it happens on a and if hey, there's a freak event or is even scary weather on days where we're bobbing and preparing, we'll figure it out. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Okay. Normally I would take a break, but I probably have like a half an hour. So you want to soldier through and try to end on time, or do you want a little break and I'm seeing soldier through. I'll go for it. Okay. Yep. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Sweet. Okay. Now, I mentioned that I use Git and GitHub a lot in the class. This is an awesome tool for sharing code. And there is there's the Getting Started repository. So I have a repository in GitHub, which we all use as a starting point for the course. One of the things that I learned over a number of years is that there's some startup costs to this course. There's tooling you got to learn. And it was so hard for me to describe everything. And I said, okay, great, let's just all have a place where we can start. And that's this repository right here. It has a very healthy README, lots of documentation to read. And we'll talk about some of the sections that are relevant to you tonight. And then there's also other information on here that I'll be covering in future lectures. So what I'm going to do for the rest of the class tonight is show you how to get started with the course. It basically consists of making a copy of this repository. It's called a template repository in GitHub. Making a copy of this repository for yourself, getting a clone, a checkout of that repository on one of the PSU machines, running the survey script, and then we'll also demonstrate how you can use Git to move files back and forth between a PSU machine and your local machine. When it comes to development in this course, I encourage you to develop on your local machine. It'll be faster. You'll be able to use IntelliJ and have a great development experience and stuff like that. However, I will grade all your projects except for the Android one on the PSU machines. So then you submit your code from the PSU machines. Anyway, we'll talk more about those details later. Okay. First off, show of hands, and actually people who are remote, I encourage you to use some sort of reaction. Oh, there was a question, sorry. Oh, what do you mean when you say about a possible curve may be lower? Well, that's the nature of a curve now, isn't it? So if I grade it on a curve and everybody's points were like 90 or higher, I would say, even though you got a 92, that's really a C because you got the lowest grade in the course. I'm not going to do that. Or actually, if everybody does that, well, hey, everybody deserves it, right? But I want to reserve the right, and just so no one can say, well, wait, you didn't say you were going to grade on a curve. So. Sorry, Alex, I missed that question before. Oh, sorry, what was I going to do? Oh, yeah, I was going to do show of hands. Who here has used Git before? Everybody good? Who's used GitHub or GitLab or something? Okay, sorry, no, conceptually. Okay, good. Okay, some people online also. Excellent. So I hope these things are familiar to you. That being said, I found that there are some concepts that we talked about here that aren't familiar to students, and so then please go back and watch the lecture. That'll give you all the context that you need for this course. So good. So hopefully, I'm not going to go into details about what Git is or what GitHub is, and you can watch the lecture for that. Let's just start using it. So the first thing we want to do is take this my Getting Started repository, and we want to create our own repositories from it. So GitHub has something called a template repository, which what this one is. And what we can do is we can create a new repository from this template. Basically what it does is it takes the current state of the code and creates a new repository with that. Now, this is what's going to store your code for the class. So this will be your code. It's meant to be your code only. So you'll create a repository for the course in your workspace. So I'm going to do it in mine, David Whitlock, who is who I am on GitHub. And I'm going to call this Joy of Coding. Oops. Of Coding Winter 2020. Oops, 6. Great. I encourage you to use a similar name. By the way, I think all these steps are outlined. Here. All these steps are outlined in this. How do I use this repository? And by the way, if you don't have Git installed in your environment, you can, actually please do install it on your development machine. And of course, you'll need an account and licenses, all that kind of great stuff. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So, yep. So I'm going to call this Joy of Coding Winter 2026. I don't need to have a description. Configuration, this is really important. You should create a private repository. This is going to hold your code for your projects for this class. You don't want anybody to see it. And I don't want anybody to see your code either. So I'd like you to create a private repository. I, however, will create a public one so that you can see the code that I do, so you can go look at my code. If I do something here in class, you're like, oh, what did Dave do? You can go look at it. You want to copy something that I did too, that's fine. You can copy that. Okay, I do not need Copilot stuff. That's neat that it's there. Okay, so again, start with a template getting started. Do not need to include all branches. That's interesting. Yeah, nope. Repository name, Joy of Coding Winter 2026. And mine's public, you'll be private. Don't need to do anything with Copilot. Create repository. Okay. Oh, that was someone on Slack. Good deal. GitHub is off creating a new repository. And now I have in my namespace, my David Whitlock namespace, Joy of Coding Winter 2026, which has all the same information and all of these same files. So this is good. Now, I'll talk more about Java stuff later. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a checkout of this repository here on my local machine, so that I can work with the source code and everything. So I'm going to go to my, I just keep things organized in a directory called David Whitlock, and it corresponds to the name of the organization. And I am going to make a clone by getting the SSH. I use SSH, have keys and stuff like that. You can authenticate with HTTPS if you want, or you can use GitHub CLI. I prefer the SSH. And I'll say git clone of that URL I just copied there. And so this will get a clone of that repository. So it's like a local checkout of that GitHub repository on my local machine. And, Joy of Coding Winter 2026. Got my old checkouts there too. And now I have the same files and directories here on my local machine as they're here on GitHub. This repository is all about making it easy for you to get started in the course, especially getting started with Maven. The motivation for this really comes from, I don't know, a few years ago, I was finding that my students were spending a lot of time the first couple of weeks just getting their environment set up. And I'm like, okay, this is not what I want you to be learning. It's not where I want you to be focusing. What can I do to make it easier? And so then we started this way. I hope this helps you get started quickly. Let me know, though, if you find this cumbersome, if there's something that just doesn't work for you in your environment. So there are a bunch of scripts here for creating your projects. Tonight, we're going to talk about just the survey project, and yeah, that'll be it, given the amount of time. Or sorry, the survey script, and then we'll talk more about things like creating the koans project next on Wednesday. And just to be clear, this repository is really fundamental to the course and what you'll be doing in it. So I know I'm going fast tonight. Please take some time between now and Wednesday to review the recording of this or look at the README and follow those steps so that you can get your project all set up. Oh, there was one more thing that I want to be sure to call out. If you go to settings and collaborators, yeah, okay. What do I got to do? Sure, I gotta. So it's to make configuration changes, it's asking you to authenticate, and so it's supposed to authenticate with my authenticator app. That's going super slow. There we go. Sure. Oh, because I need to use. No, stop one more time. So I used to encourage, now I request, I think, that people that you all add me as a collaborator on your repository. This makes it so much easier for me to help you because I've had so many students say, "Oh man, it's not working. What's not working?" And I'm just like, go back and forth. And I'm like, hey, can you send me a stack trace and I'll look at your code? Oh, look there, right? So make me a collaborator. And so you do that by collaborators. And then I can't add myself. We can say add me. And again, I'm David Whitlock, all one word on GitHub. And that way I'll be able to make check out your code, help you debug things, maybe you can put up a pull request to fix things. Yeah, it just works out way better. And it looks like great. I'm already doing some requests here. Thanks. Okay. So I'll go back here. So we've got all this stuff in GitHub. I've got a checkout. I've got a local checkout here of the repository, and there are these scripts. Now, these scripts are things like create your project and interact with my tools. The scripts themselves cannot be run on your local machine. I used to do it that way. It got really complex because everybody's machine's different, and then there's like some person that's got like a let's just say an unusual Linux variant or something like that. Okay, fine. You know what I mean. And I said, okay, sorry, I can only support so much. And so then while the Java code can be built on any machine, the scripts can only be run on the PSU machines, which means then that you need to have a checkout of your repository on the PSU machines. And there's the PSU Linux machines, which I hope are all familiar to you. These are cat accounts, which I don't know how things work these days. Does everybody here have an account on the PS Linux machines? Okay, if not, reach out to me or find a friend or something to get yourself an account. So now I'm going to make a checkout of, and the directory structure looks a lot the same on the PSU machines. So I'm going to say git clone again of my URL. Actually, wait a second. I only want to type the passphrase once. And I do it successfully though. Good. Now I'm going to clone. And there it is. Okay. Put in winter 2026. Great. And here is my same stuff. Now that on the PSU machines, I can run the survey program. So, okay. At one point, there were 60 students who were registered for this course. It was quite popular across undergraduate and graduate. I had to go to a bigger room to fire mark the one put 60 people in the room, etc. And there was only one of me, and I had to create 2 graders. So I invested a lot in automation that would help me focus on things I think are important, like having time to respond to students, providing students with timely feedback. I didn't want my grader, to pay the graders to like click lots of things to download them. Another reason why I don't want Canvas so much, right? So I have some automated tools. We'll see more of them. And one of them is the survey program. I have a grade book application that I wrote to manage the grades and everything like that. And so I need to know who you are. And I don't want to spend a lot of time transferring stuff from Canvas or Banner or whatever system you're registered in. Plus, I wanted to give you an opportunity to like run a Java program for the first time to make sure that things work in your environment. And that's the survey program. So the first, right after you create your repository, what I'd like you to do is make a clone of the repository on the PSU machines and run the survey.sh program. And it asks some information about you. So I'll put it in, ask who you are, your name, and then do you have a nickname or it's a name you preferred by. It'll ask for your MKEX Unix login ID. And I guess I could probably figure this out from the environment that's running it now that I think about it. But I need an ID to uniquely identify you. It's not your email or whatever. It's actually used in your Java programs as part of your package name. And but I need to be consistent and for grading purposes and things like that for the grading scripts. So my Unix login ID is Whitlock. I also ask for your pdx.edu email address. This is where I will email your grades to and things like that. So mine is whitlowcd@pdx.edu. And there's some demographic information. So let's say, my major is computer science and my undergraduate is also important. It determines where I curve your grades. Oh yeah. And also, it asks for your GitHub username. So you create a repository for all of your code, for your project code, for your colons, all that kind of stuff. There'll be another repository that we all share. And that will be for the mobbing, the pairing, and the work that we all do together. And I want to make you all collaborators on those repositories. So I need to know what your GitHub name was. And years past, I used to ask people, and we spent so much time in class just having me register people. I was like, wait a second, I should just get this information at the beginning because everybody's using GitHub, and I'll do it that way. So that's why I asked for this information. If you don't feel comfortable sharing with me for whatever reason, okay, we'll figure it out. But I would like, I'd appreciate it if you could let me know what your Git ID is, and that makes it much faster for me to add you to the repository that we all share. And then just some questions. If there's anything that you hope to learn, I hope to learn a lot. And is there anything else you want to tell me? Nope. Great. And so what this does is it creates a file called me.xml, which has all this information, and also will email that file to me so that I can then extract that file with automation and then import it into my load grading program. So that all the information is correct. So then it emails it off to me. And now we have a file called me.xml in this directory. And it is not under version control, and it needs to be. Oh, it looks like it does git add for me automatically, which is nice. I'm going to have the script commit stuff to the repository. So that's the first thing we need to do. So just to review, we ran the survey script, we provided some information. It creates this me.xml file, no secrets here. It's just got all the information that we provided. And now it's ready to be added to GitHub. Add to Git. So I add it to Git and then go through the normal Git workflow of committing that file, adding me.xml. And so then I commit it to GitHub, and now I can push my changes from my local repository to GitHub. So it did that. And now if I reload my page here, I can see that the most recent commit is me adding the me.xml. And there's now a me.xml file. So good, that's there now. And I'm going to exit out of the PSU machines. I'm going to go back to my checkout here. I don't have a me.xml yet because I haven't done a git pull. So now I do a git pull from GitHub, and it said, oh, we detected a new file, and it is me.xml. So now I've got my me.xml here. And I encourage you to go through this same workflow yourself just to make sure that your checkouts of the GitHub repository, both on your local machine and on the PSU machine, can talk to each other, and that everything, or rather can both talk through GitHub to each other, because this will be a fundamental workflow for what you're doing in your projects in this course. You'll be doing development. Well, you'll create your projects on the PSU machine. You'll check in the skeleton of the project that's created by the scripts. Then you'll pull those changes down into your local repository, your local checkout. You'll be using your development machine, your personal machine, to write the code, and then you'll periodically commit your changes and push them back up to GitHub. You'll need to get really used to that workflow. You'll be seeing a lot in this class. Saw a number of you typing away. Maybe you're working on your novel, I don't know. But what have your experiences been like the last couple of minutes? Has anybody been able to follow along? Is it working for folks? Okay. Anything that was surprising to you or unexpected as you were going through this? Yes. Yeah, SSH keys, always a thing to manage. Yep, it will work with HTTPS if you want to authenticate that way. I guess they use the keys now or whatever it is they do. Yeah, auth tokens. Tokens. Yeah, you like tokens? Yeah, it's okay to be a token person. Yeah, in the back. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, you can do your work locally. You can commit locally, and please, I recommend. We'll talk more about this later. In small batches, get a unit test working and commit because you have a save point. You have it's not a known working condition. But then you push it up to GitHub, and we'll talk more about this later. You submit your project from the PSU machine, which means, and actually what that does is, among other things, forces you to like, build it and, make sure it runs on the PSU machine, because I'm going to touch your code on the PSU machine. Yep. Yeah. And so then that's the workflow. And so then, yep, you'll be able to demonstrate, show yourself locally. Oh yeah, great, it's working. We even have continuous integration hooked up, so you'll get feedback from GitHub. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks too. But then, yeah, the idea here is that that you submit everything from that everything is submitted from the PSU machines, and we'll yep, and then you'll go from there. Let's see. I did see a couple of questions come in. Oh yeah, from Ed. Yeah, thanks for Yep. Okay. So yeah. So Ed, yep, did it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, unless you like wrote a bunch of code that like you really care about, start over again. Yeah, and I remember that. Yeah, you reached out to me earlier. Thank you. That was awesome. And so I knew you were coming. But yeah, I didn't get everything squared away until like this last weekend. So I apologize for not having things done sooner. But so yeah, I recommend that if you created the repository like before Sunday, well, like Sunday, 2 days ago. Yeah, before the weekend, that you just start over with it, because I did push a bunch of changes for this term. Let's see. Okay. Oh, and the question: how do you access the survey.sh? So as I showed Tuan, you need to make your own, a copy of the repository in under your own username, make it private so no one else can see it, and then get a checkout on the PSU machine, and from there you can run the survey.sh script. You might need to say /survey.sh. I'm not sure about that. Tuan, did that answer your question? And I know I went through things really fast, and so then hopefully watching the recording or maybe something we can answer right here and now, that can give you the clarity that you need. Alex asked about the submit.sh. So you just run submit.sh and that will submit the code. Yes, it will. We will go into detail on that, though, in next week, either Monday or Wednesday. We'll talk about how to submit the code. There are some nuances there. There's good information, but like for today, like let's just focus on getting the repository created and running the survey.sh script, committing and pushing your me.xml to GitHub. If we can get that much done tonight, that's plenty for day one. Don't worry, there'll be a lot more to do on Wednesday. Oh, good. How do you access the PSU machine? Great question. There's some information about that on the Catch Linux page. At least there used to be. Any advice on how to get a Linux account, or how to get started there? Oh, okay. So yeah, so if you took Carlos classes, and I hope you did, I hear they're awesome. Yeah, it's those same machines. It's the PSU Linux machines. Linux or Babbage, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was using Linux. I'll let the load balancer determine my fate. Fortune. Cool. Okay. Anything else I can tell you about like we've just done over the last like 20 plus minutes in terms of creating a GitHub repository and running the the survey.sh script? Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, we are almost at time. So I just want to give a little preview of what we'll be doing on Wednesday. So hope to see you all again. Please come back, whether you're remote or in person. Because on Wednesday, we're going to start diving into Java. And so what we're going to do is we're going to focus basically the entire class on what are called these Java koans. And the idea here, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our first Maven project in our repository. And what this Maven project is a series of little code examples that are kind of like fill in the blanks. And I found this is a very effective way at getting people who haven't used Java in a while or have never used Java before, just up and running with the language, exploring the syntax. And it'll be interactive where I'll be showing a piece of code on the screen, and then you will tell me how to what to fill in, and we'll see if it works. And this is also your first assignment, your first project in the course. So then we'll also talk about what it means to have all that. Maybe we'll cover the submit script next week too, but maybe we can also save that for next week. Okay, excellent. Anything else you'd like to know? Awesome then. Okay, right on time. Thanks everybody. Really appreciate you being here. I'm really looking forward to this term. It's good stuff. I hope you feel the same way. Stay warm and safe and dry, and I'll see you again on and hydrated. Yeah. And I'll see you again on Wednesday. Bye now. Thanks everybody.